So let's go back over here. I want to show you the other cool thing that I've done is I've got this event. So I've got eventing running here. If you look at servers, eventing is one of the services. I've got all of them running on the same node. Typically you wouldn't do that in production, but at least not this many, right? But you could do this, right? Run them all on the same node. I only have the one node. And so I've got eventing running. And so with eventing, you can basically just create some JavaScript functions. So I've got one here. Well, you can have two different JavaScript functions. You have onUpdate and onDelete. You can have as many different set of functions as you want to. But this code will run whenever a document is updated. Now, which document, you say? Let's go back to eventing here. And I've got settings. So these are the settings for that function that I've created. So there's a source bucket. It's going to monitor documents in this bucket. And there's also a metadata bucket. So the eventing process has to store some data about eventing. And so you need a separate bucket for that. Just kind of a storage area. Give it a name, give it a description. There's some other stuff. I can also do bindings. I don't necessarily need this binding, but this is an alias that I want to give to the source bucket. So this source bucket up here, within the function, I can refer to that bucket by using src, and it's read-only. I've also got a URL alias, which again I could use within the function, probably for my curl method, right? And I'm going to pass it a URL, and I've just got match_twitchbot.web. So why match_twitchbot.web? Because if you go back to Docker Compose, that's what it's called, match_twitchbot.web. So inside of Docker, there's sort of a DNS service that's going to see this and point it to the web application. So I pass in bot URL there. Now inside the application, I don't actually use src, so we could probably omit that. But notice I do use bot URL. So I'm creating this request object, the body of which is just the full document that's being updated. And I'm creating a curl request. Well, I want to post to the given URL that request, that body. That's all this method does. That's all this function does, is just turn around and pass this document, push it out to ASP.NET Core. And I've got an endpoint here in home controller. This is very experimental, right? I don't necessarily know if I recommend this for beginners or as something, if you can wait for the real event stream feature to happen in Couchbase server, I would recommend doing that. This is kind of if you really need to do it right now or you just want to experiment with it. But this is just a endpoint, and I've got a Couchbase notification. I may experiment with this, making this a little more generic, but I've got a class. These are all Twitch messages, so I'm looking for username, channel, and message. I'm just going to return that out to the console. It doesn't actually do anything yet, but I could, for instance, call to my SignalR hub here and pass a message up to the web page. So maybe we'll try that today. But that's it. Yeah, that's really it. And so I've got in the source code here, if you look at models, I've got the actual JavaScript function here that I showed you already, and then a bunch of information about why I've created this function, how to do this yourself. It's not an automatic deploy, it's just kind of a manual step, right? A lot of this is manual because I'm using the off-the-shelf Couchbase image. And I'm not using something like Brandt's image that has a lot of built-in scripts and things like that. Yep, so that's it. And so there you go. If you're watching this video, that's the sort of Rube Goldberg eventing thing that I proposed back in July. This process right here. Loader saves to Couchbase. Couchbase launches an event. The event itself launches an HTTP request. The MVC project receives that request and then communicates it